Let me ask you something nobody's going to ask you today. Why does the guy who works half as hard as you drive a better car, live in a bigger house, and take vacations you've only pinned on Pinterest? It's not luck. It's not connections. It's not even talent. It's because he knows something you don't. There are rules to power, rules to money, and nobody taught them to you in school because the people who knew them didn't want you to. But today, that changes. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right and still ending up broke, overlooked, or stuck, stay right here. Because what you're about to hear is the stuff that's been whispered in boardrooms, written in the margins of billionaires' journals, and lived out by every person who ever went from nothing to unstoppable. This is the 33 laws of power and money. And by the time this audiobook ends, you will never see the world the same way again. If this hits different already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for Mindset Audiobooks. We drop the kind of content that changes careers, changes bank accounts, and changes lives. Let's get into it. Every generation has its rule book. The ancient Romans had their war strategies. The Medici family had their financial playbooks. Rockefeller had his principles. Carnegie had his laws. And yet, most people alive today are operating with no rule book at all. They were taught to work hard, stay in their lane, and hope someone notices. And for a select few, maybe that worked. But for the vast majority, working hard without strategy is just exhausting. It's a hamster wheel with a better-looking cage. The 33 Laws of Power and Money is not a feel-good book. It's not going to tell you to light candles and manifest a Mercedes. This is a field guide, a weapon, a decoded map of how power actually moves in the real world and how money follows it. Across 10 chapters, we'll walk through laws that govern perception, leverage, wealth building, social dynamics, and the psychology of dominance and influence. Some of these laws will make you uncomfortable. Good. Discomfort is where growth lives. These laws were drawn from centuries of human behavior, from Machiavelli to Morgan, from Sun Tzu to Silicon Valley. They've been stress-tested in the streets and in the suites. And now, they belong to you. Are you ready to stop playing by rules that were never designed for you to win? Then let's begin. Chapter 1, Law 1 and 2. The Law of Perceived Value and the Law of Controlled Scarcity. It's not what you are that holds you back. It's what you think you are not. Dennis Waitley. Here's a truth that Wall Street lives by, that luxury brands swear by, and that every powerful person in history has understood at a bone-deep level. People do not pay for value. They pay for perceived value. Read that again. Think about it. Why does a bottle of water in a 5-star hotel cost $12 when the same water costs 79 cents at a gas station? The water didn't change. The perception of the water changed. The packaging changed. The setting changed. The story around it changed. This is law number 1, the law of perceived value. You're not paid what you're worth. You're paid what people believe you're worth. And the moment you understand that, everything shifts. Your income is not a reflection of your talent. It's a reflection of how your talent is packaged, positioned, and presented to the world. The people who are broke but brilliant, they've mastered the craft and ignored the perception. The people pulling 7 figures who seem average, they've mastered the perception. That's not cynical, that's the game. And once you know the rules of the game, you can play on your terms. So what does this mean practically? It means the way you carry yourself in a room matters more than the degree on your wall. It means your brand, your digital presence, your reputation, the stories people tell about you when you're not in the room, is a financial asset. Treat it like one. Raise your perceived value by raising your standards. Raise your standards publicly. The car you drive, the way you dress, the places you're seen, the people you're associated with. These aren't superficial vanities. In the economy of power, there are signals. And signals determine what opportunities find their way to your door. Now here's where law number 1 gets dangerous if you stop there. Because perceived value alone is not enough. Perceived value without scarcity is just nice. It's a compliment. It's not a transaction. Enter law number 2, the law of controlled scarcity. The less available you make yourself, the more valuable you become. Robert Greene. Scarcity is one of the oldest drivers of human desire. We want what we can't easily have. We chase what pulls away. We undervalue what's constantly available. Think about this in your own life. The friend who cancels plans is often more missed than the friend who's always available. The job offer with a deadline creates urgency. The limited edition sneaker sells out because it's limited. None of this is accidental. It's engineered. Powerful people understand that availability is inversely proportional to perceived value. When you're always available, always answering texts at midnight, always saying yes, always clearing your schedule for whoever asks, you are communicating to the world that your time is cheap. And cheap time means cheap value. This doesn't mean become cold or arrogant. It means become intentional, selective, strategic with your access. The most powerful executives in America don't take every meeting. The most respected artists don't respond to every pitch. The wealthiest investors don't answer every call. Not because they're rude, but because they understand that protecting their time is protecting their worth. Start practicing scarcity today, not as a manipulation tactic, but as a self-respect strategy. Say no more. Guard your calendar like it's a brokerage account. Create waiting periods before you respond to non-urgent requests. Let your presence be something people have to earn. Because the moment you become rare, you become valuable. And valuable people don't chase money. Money chases them. Laws 1 and 2 are the foundation, perception and scarcity. Master both, and you'll walk into any room differently. You'll negotiate differently. You'll price yourself differently. But here's the thing. Perception and scarcity are only the beginning. Because once you control how the world sees you, you need to control something even more dangerous. You need to control the narrative. And that's exactly where we're headed in Chapter 2. If Law 1 and 2 already made you rethink something, drop a comment below. Tell me which one hit hardest. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you're leaving money on the table. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. Mindset Audiobooks is where the shift begins. Chapter 2, Law 3 and 4, the law of narrative control and the law of strategic silence. Whoever controls the narrative controls the world. Unknown. Let's talk about something that the most powerful people in America figured out a long time ago, and that most people never will. Your life is a story, and right now, someone is telling it. The question is it you? Because if you're not actively shaping the story people tell about you, the world will write one for you. And trust me, the world is not a generous author. It will reduce you to your worst moment. It will define you by your failures. It will whisper your mistakes louder than it ever announces your wins. This is law number 3, the law of narrative control. Here's how it works in the real world. Two people can have the exact same resume, the exact same background, and the exact same skill set. And one of them gets the deal, the promotion, the investment, the opportunity. Why? Because one of them told a better story. Think about every major brand you trust. Apple doesn't sell computers. They sell creative rebellion. Nike doesn't sell sneakers. They sell the story of the person who didn't quit. Elon Musk doesn't just build companies. He builds narratives that make people want to believe. Whether you like him or not, the man understands that in the attention economy, the story is the strategy. And this isn't just for billionaires. This is for you, in your career, your business, your relationships, your network. The person who gets passed over for the raise didn't necessarily do worse work. They just never learned to narrate their wins. They kept their head down, thinking hard work would speak for itself. And maybe in a fair world, it would. But in this world, you have to speak for it. Start owning your narrative today. Document your wins loudly. Not arrogantly, strategically. Post about your progress. Talk about your growth in meetings. Build a personal brand that tells the story you want people to believe. Because people make decisions about you based on the story they've heard. And if that story has been written by silence, by default, by other people's opinions, you are already losing. If you don't tell your story, someone else will, and they won't be as kind. Bream Brown. Control the narrative in every room you enter. Before a big meeting, shape how people think about you before you sit down. Before a negotiation, let your reputation do the first round of talking. Before a pitch, build so much credibility in the space that by the time you speak, people already want to say yes. Narrative control isn't lying. It's leadership of your own identity. But here's where most people go wrong once they understand narrative control. They start talking too much. They over-explain. They justify. They fill every silence with words because silence feels like weakness. It isn't. Enter law number 4, the law of strategic silence. Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools speak because they have to say something. Plato. Silence is one of the most underrated power tools in existence, and it is wildly misunderstood in American culture, where we're conditioned to believe that louder means stronger and more words mean more intelligence. The reality? The most powerful people in any room are often the quietest ones. They listen more than they speak. They observe more than they react. They respond when it's strategic, not when their emotions demand it. Think about every negotiation you've ever been in or watched. What happens when someone makes an offer and the other person just stays silent? The discomfort is almost unbearable. And almost every time, the person who broke the silence first lost. They concede. They over-explain. They offer more than they intended to, just to fill the void. Silence creates pressure, and pressure reveals truth. When you go quiet, people talk. And when people talk without thinking, they expose exactly what you need to know. Strategic silence is not the same as being passive. It's not checking out a conversation. It's choosing with precision when to deploy your voice. Because when you speak less, every word you do say carries more weight. People lean in. People listen. Because you've trained them to understand that when you speak, it matters. Practice this in your daily life. In your next difficult conversation, resist the urge to fill every pause. Let silence do the work. In your next negotiation, make your ask, then shut up and let the other person respond. In your next meeting, speak last. Observe first. You'll be shocked how much power you gain simply by withholding. There's also a deeper layer here. Silence protects you. The more you talk, the more ammunition you hand to people who may not have your best interest at heart. Powerful people are careful with what they reveal and to whom. Not out of paranoia, out of wisdom. Because not every thought deserves an audience. Not every plan should be announced before it's executed. Not every emotion needs to be put on display. In a world addicted to oversharing, restraint is power. Laws 3 and 4 work together like a master combination. You control the story people tell about you, and you control when to speak and when to let silence do the heavy lifting. Together, they make you someone whose presence commands attention before a single word is spoken. But controlling your narrative and mastering your silence, those are external strategies. They shape how the world sees you. What about what's happening inside you? Because no amount of narrative control can save you if your mind is working against you. And that's exactly the battlefield we're stepping onto in Chapter 3. The war for power and money begins in your psychology. And most people are already losing it. Drop a comment right now. Which law hit you harder today? 3 or 4? Let us know. Chapter 3, Law 5 and 6. The law of mental dominance and the law of emotional detachment. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Let's get brutally honest for a second. You've probably met someone, maybe more than one person, who is smarter than the most successful person you know. Better educated, more talented, more creative. And yet, they never broke through. They stayed stuck. They stayed small. They stayed comfortable in their discomfort. And you probably looked at that and thought, how? How does someone with all that going for them end up going nowhere? Here's the answer nobody wants to give you. The battlefield of power and money is not external. It is psychological. And most people are losing the war inside their own heads before they ever step into the real one. This is law number 5, the law of mental dominance. Mental dominance is not about being heartless. It's not about suppressing emotion or pretending life doesn't hurt. It's about who controls the narrative inside your skull. Because here's the truth. Your brain, left unchecked, is not your ally. It is wired for survival, not success. It is wired to avoid pain, not pursue greatness. It defaults to fear, doubt, and retreat because for most of human history, those instincts kept us alive. But you're not trying to survive anymore. You're trying to dominate. And domination requires rewiring. The most powerful people, the ones who build empires, lead movements, accumulate generational wealth, they're not smarter than you. They're more disciplined in their thinking than you. They've learned to identify the voice inside that says, "You're not ready. It's too risky. Who do you think you are?" And they've learned to override it. Not silence it, override it. Because that voice never fully goes away. The difference is whether you obey it or lead it. The mind is a superb instrument if used rightly. Used wrongly, however, it becomes very destructive. Eckhart Tolle, mental dominance starts with one practice, and it's one of the most underrated habits of high performers in America today. It's called deliberate thought auditing. Every morning, before the world gets its hands on your attention, you sit with yourself and you choose the mental framework for your day. You decide what you're going to focus on. You decide what story you're running. You decide what version of yourself is showing up. Because here's the thing, everyone has a story running in the background. The question is whether it's a story of scarcity or abundance, victimhood or agency, fear or calculated courage. High earners run abundant stories. They see problems as puzzles. They see setbacks as data. They see competition as confirmation that they're in the right arena. People who stay broke, not financially broke, but mentally broke, run scarcity stories. Every setback is proof that life is against them. Every competitor is a threat. Every risk is a reason to retreat. You cannot build a wealthy life with a poverty mindset. Full stop. Mental dominance means taking full ownership of your internal world, your self-talk, your focus, your emotional defaults, and training them like you train for a championship. Every single day. Now, here's where it gets even more powerful. Because mental dominance gives you clarity. But clarity alone can get you burned if you haven't mastered what comes next. Law number 6, the law of emotional detachment. The strong man is not the one who overcomes others by force. The strong man is the one who controls himself when he is angry. Prophet Muhammad, PBUH. This law makes people uncomfortable, especially in a culture that celebrates passion, hustle energy, and leading with your heart. And look, passion is a fuel, but uncontrolled passion is a fire with no fireplace. It burns everything, including you. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop letting your emotions make your decisions for you. Think about every major mistake you've made in your financial life, your career, your relationships. Now, think honestly, how many of those mistakes were made in a reactive emotional state? You took the deal because you were desperate. You quit because you were angry. You invested because you were excited and impatient. You burned a bridge because your ego got bruised. Emotions are real, but emotions are also temporary. And temporary states should not be making permanent decisions. The wealthiest investors in the world, Warren Buffett has said it, Ray Dalio has lived it, make their best decisions when they are emotionally neutral. Not cold, not robotic, neutral. They've trained themselves to pause between stimulus and response, to create a gap, to let the emotion pass through like a weather system, and then make the call from a place of clarity. Here's a practical tool that top performers use, the 24-hour rule. Before making any significant financial, professional, or relational decision, you wait 24 hours. You let the emotion run its cycle. Then you revisit with fresh eyes. You'll be shocked how different a decision looks when desperation, excitement, or anger isn't driving the car. Another layer of emotional detachment that doesn't get talked about enough. Detaching from outcomes you can't control. In America's hustle culture, we're obsessed with results. And yes, results matter. But when you become emotionally attached to a specific outcome, you start making moves out of fear of losing rather than strategy of winning. And fear-based decision-making almost always leads to bad deals, bad investments, and burned relationships. Detach from the outcome. Stay locked into the process. Do the right things consistently with discipline and trust the compounding. That's how wealth is built, not in desperate sprints, in disciplined marathons. Mental dominance and emotional detachment, laws 5 and 6, are the inner game. They are the foundation beneath the foundation. Because you can know every external strategy in this book, narrative control, scarcity, perceived value, and still self-destruct if you haven't built these 2 pillars inside yourself first. The people who rise and stay risen, they've done the inner work. They've built the mental infrastructure that can hold the weight of real power and real money. But here's what nobody tells you. Once you've built that inner strength, you cannot do it alone. Because no amount of mental toughness matters if you're surrounded by the wrong people. And that's exactly the dangerous territory we're walking into in Chapter 4. The laws of who you let into your circle and who you need to cut out of it immediately. Comment below. Are you winning the mental game right now? Or is your own mind your biggest opponent? Be honest. The people in the comments who are real with themselves are the ones who are about to level up. Chapter 4. Law 7 and 8. The law of circle architecture and the law of strategic alliance. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Jim Rohn. Let me paint you a picture. There's a guy. Let's call him Marcus. Smart, driven, full of potential. He reads the books, watches the videos, writes the goals down every January. And every December, he's in the exact same place he was 12 months ago. Same income, same problems, same ceiling. And Marcus can't figure out why. But here's what Marcus hasn't looked at. His circle. Because every weekend, Marcus is surrounded by people who complain about the economy, but never study it. People who talk about getting rich, but ridicule anyone who actually tries. People who are comfortable, dangerously, infectiously comfortable, and who unconsciously punish anyone around them for wanting more. Marcus doesn't have a strategy problem. Marcus doesn't have a skill problem. Marcus has a circle problem. And if you're being honest with yourself right now, you might too. This is law number 7, the law of circle architecture. Your circle is not just your social life. It is your operating environment. It is the invisible system that either accelerates your growth or quietly suffocates it. The conversations you have daily, the mindsets you're exposed to constantly, the standards that are normalized around you, all of it is shaping your trajectory whether you're conscious of it or not. Jim Rohn's quote gets repeated so often it's almost lost its punch. But let's actually sit with it. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Not inspired by, not occasionally influenced by. The average. Their income level bleeds into your income expectations. Their risk tolerance shapes yours. Their ceiling quietly becomes yours. This is not about being cold or cutting off people you love. This is about being intentional with your most valuable resource, your environment. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. Dan Pena. Circle architecture means you become the designer of your social environment instead of the victim of it. It means you audit, honestly and ruthlessly, the people who have access to your time, your energy, and your inner world. Ask yourself these 3 questions about everyone in your close circle. 1. Are they building something, or are they just existing? 2. Do they challenge you to grow, or do they make you comfortable staying the same? 3. When you share a big goal or a bold idea, do they pour fuel on it or quietly pour water on it? Because the people who pour water, they're not always doing it maliciously. Sometimes it's projection. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's love wrapped in limitation. But the effect is the same. Your fire goes out. Start upgrading your circle immediately, not by announcing it dramatically, just by redirecting your time. Spend less time in conversations that drain you. Spend more time around people who are where you want to be. Read the books of mentors you can't yet meet in person. Listen to podcasts like this one that place you inside the mindset of people operating at the level you're reaching for. Because proximity is everything. Get close to excellence, and excellence starts to feel normal. Get close to wealth, and wealth starts to feel possible. Get close to power, and power stops feeling like something that belongs to other people. Now here's the upgrade to circle architecture, because curating your circle defensively is only half the equation. The other half is building strategically. Enter law number 8, the law of strategic alliance. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. African proverb. Every empire in history, financial, political, cultural, was built on alliances. No one has ever built anything truly significant entirely alone. Not Rockefeller, not Carnegie, not Steve Jobs, not Oprah. Behind every person who looks like a solo success story is a network of strategic relationships that made the impossible possible. Strategic alliance is not networking in the surface level, business card swapping sense. That version of networking is almost useless. Strategic alliance is about building genuine, mutually beneficial relationships with people who have complementary strengths, resources, and access. The key word is mutually beneficial, because one of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to build powerful relationships is approaching them from a place of pure extraction. What can this person do for me? That energy is detectable, and powerful people can smell it from across the room. The approach that actually works? Lead with value. Before you ask for anything, give something. Share information, make an introduction, offer your expertise, open a door. Create a moment where the other person thinks, this person is genuinely useful and trustworthy. Because trust is the currency of strategic alliances. Without it, you don't have an alliance. You have a transaction, and transactions end when the deal does. Build relationships before you need them. The worst time to start networking is when you're desperate. The best time is when you're already bringing value to the table. Plant those seeds now, consistently, generously, without immediate expectation of return, and watch what happens over 18 months, 3 years, 5 years. There's another dimension of strategic alliance that America's most successful entrepreneurs live by: the power of the room. There's a reason masterminds exist. There's a reason elite business groups charge tens of thousands of dollars for membership. It's not just the knowledge shared in those rooms, it's the access. One conversation with the right person in the right room can be worth more than a decade of solo grinding. Find your rooms. Invest in getting into them. A conference, a mastermind, a local business network, an online community of high performers. Get yourself into proximity with people who are operating at the next level. Because when you're the least successful person in a room, that's exactly the room you need to be in. And one final note on alliances: protect them fiercely. Once you've built genuine relationships with powerful, valuable people, treat those relationships like assets. Show up. Follow through. Be someone whose word means something. In a world full of flaky, self-serving networkers, reliability is a superpower that opens more doors than talent ever will. Laws 7 and 8, circle architecture and strategic alliance, are about understanding that you are not a solo act. You're an ecosystem, and the health of your ecosystem determines the scale of your success. You've built your inner world. You've built your outer circle. Now it's time to talk about something that ties it all together. Something that separates the people who make money occasionally from the people who keep it and multiply it. Because making money is a skill. But keeping money, that's a philosophy. And most people in America were never taught it. That's exactly where we're going in Chapter 5. Who in your circle is building? And who is holding you back? You don't have to answer out loud, but answer honestly to yourself. That answer might be the most important thing you do today. Chapter 5, Law 9 and 10. The Law of Wealth Philosophy and the Law of Money Velocity. It's not how much money you make, but how much money you keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for. Robert Kiyosaki. Here's a stat that should stop you cold. According to multiple studies on lottery winners in the United States, the majority of people who win massive jackpots are broke within 5 years. Not just broke, many end up in worse financial shape than before they won. Let that sink in. They had the money. All of it. Millions of dollars dropped directly into their hands. And they still lost. Now ask yourself, if giving someone a fortune isn't enough to make them wealthy, what is? The answer isn't income. The answer isn't a lucky break. The answer isn't even hard work. The answer is philosophy. This is law number 9, the law of wealth philosophy. Most people in America have been taught a spending philosophy disguised as a success philosophy. Work hard, earn more, buy the things that signal you've earned more. Upgrade your lifestyle with every raise. Keep up with the culture. Keep up with the feed. Keep up with the neighbors. And the result? 68% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, including people earning 6 figures, because their income grew, but their philosophy never did. A wealth philosophy is fundamentally different from an income philosophy. An income philosophy asks, how do I make more? A wealth philosophy asks, how do I keep more, grow more, and make what I have work harder than I do? Wealthy people, genuinely, generationally wealthy people, do not measure success by what they earn. They measure it by what they own. Assets, equity, cash-flowing investments, things that produce income whether they show up or not. That's the philosophy shift, from trading time for money to building systems that generate money. The rich don't work for money. They make money work for them. Robert Kiyosaki. This philosophy change requires rewiring some deep cultural conditioning. America glorifies the earner, the hustle, the grind, the person who never sleeps. And yes, earning is important, but earning without a wealth philosophy is a leaky bucket. You can pour as much water as you want into it. It will never stay full. Start building your wealth philosophy around 3 pillars. First, own before you spend. Every time money comes in, the first transaction is to your future self. Pay yourself first. Invest before you lifestyle inflate. Second, assets before aesthetics. Before the car upgrade, the wardrobe refresh, the bigger apartment. Ask yourself whether you own anything that generates income. Build the income-generating base before you build the lifestyle on top of it. Third, think in decades, not months. Wealth is not built in quarters. It compounds over years. The person who starts investing $200 a month at 25 will retire with more than the person who invests $1,000 a month starting at 40. Time is the most powerful wealth-building tool ever created, and most people waste it waiting until they have more to start. Now here's where the philosophy gets activated, because a great philosophy without a great mechanism is just motivation. You need the engine. Enter law number 10, the law of money velocity. Money is like a river. If it flows, it grows. If it sits, it stagnates. Unknown. Money velocity is one of the most powerful concepts in finance, and one of the least talked about outside of high-level investing circles. At its core, it's simple. The faster your money moves through productive assets, the more wealth it creates. Here's what that means in plain language. $1 sitting in a standard savings account earning 0.5% interest is moving slowly. That dollar is barely working. But $1 invested in a cash-flowing rental property, a dividend-paying stock, a high-yield business asset, or a skill that commands premium rates, that dollar is moving fast. It's generating returns, which generate more returns, which compound into something that eventually works harder than any human being can. The wealthy don't let their money sit. They deploy it. Constantly. Strategically. Every dollar has a job. And if a dollar isn't earning, it's a liability, because inflation is quietly shrinking it every single day it sits idle. Think about how the wealthiest Americans operate. They earn, yes, but immediately that money is moving into real estate, into index funds, into businesses, into tax-advantaged accounts, into alternative investments. The money never stops working. It cycles through productive vehicles continuously, and every cycle builds more than the last. Now, you don't need millions to apply this law. You need intention. Even at a small scale, the habit of immediately deploying money into something productive rather than letting it evaporate into lifestyle spending is the habit that builds wealth over time. Start small. Start now. Open the investment account. Buy the first share. Put the first dollar into a cash-flowing asset. Because the habit of velocity, of keeping money moving productively, is what separates the person who always feels broke from the person who quietly builds an empire on an average income. There's one more dimension of money velocity that almost nobody talks about: investing in yourself as an asset. The highest returning investment you will ever make is in a skill, a credential, a capability that increases your earning power. A course that earns you a certification that doubles your salary. A coaching program that helps you build a business. A book like this one that rewires your thinking and changes every financial decision you make going forward. These investments have infinite return potential. No stock can promise that. Laws 9 and 10, wealth philosophy and money velocity, are the financial foundation beneath everything else. You can master perception, narrative, circle, and psychology, but if your money philosophy is broken and your dollars are sitting idle, you will always be running in place. You now have the inner game. You have the circle game. You have a money game. But there's one more game that most people completely underestimate, and it might be the most ruthless one of all. It's the game of leverage. And the people who understand it don't just work smarter. They multiply themselves in ways that seem almost unfair to everyone watching. Chapter 6 is where the rules of leverage get revealed, and nothing will look the same after it. Be honest in the comments. Are you running a wealth philosophy or a spending philosophy right now? No judgment, just awareness. Because awareness is where the shift starts. Chapter 6, Law 11 and 12. The law of leverage and the law of asymmetric risk. Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world. Archimedes. Let me show you two people. Person A works 80 hours a week, grinds every single day, trades every hour of their life for $1, hustles harder than anyone in the room, and after 20 years, they have a decent income, a tired body, and a ceiling they can never seem to break through. Person B works 40 hours a week, sometimes less, but every move they make is multiplied. Their money works while they sleep. Their systems run while they rest. Their reputation earns while they're on vacation. And after 20 years, they have wealth, freedom, and options that person can't even comprehend. Same starting point, completely different outcomes. The difference is not talent, not luck, not connections. The difference is leverage. This is law number 11, the law of leverage. Leverage is the single most powerful force in wealth creation, and the most misunderstood concept in the average American's financial vocabulary. Most people think leverage just means borrowing money. That's one type. But real leverage is any mechanism that multiplies your output beyond your direct input. There are 4 types of leverage that the wealthiest people deploy, and understanding all 4 is what separates the person who trades time for money from the person who builds empires. The first is financial leverage, using other people's money, loans, investors, credit to acquire assets that generate returns greater than the cost of borrowing. Real estate investors do this every day. They put down 20% and control 100% of the asset. The tenant pays the mortgage. The property appreciates. The investor builds equity without using all their own capital. That's financial leverage working in its most basic, powerful form. The second is human leverage, building teams, delegating systems, hiring people whose skills multiply your capacity. Every successful business owner understands this instinctively. You cannot scale yourself. You can only scale systems and people. The moment you stop doing everything yourself and start building a team that executes your vision, your output multiplies without a proportional increase in your time. The ability to delegate is the difference between being self-employed and being a business owner. Michael Gerber. The third is technology leverage. Automation, software, digital systems that work around the clock without a salary, without sleep, without complaints. In 2025 America, this type of leverage is more accessible than it has ever been in human history. A single person with the right tools can operate what would have required a team of 50 people 20 years ago. The barrier to technology leverage is not money anymore. It's knowledge and intention. The fourth, and most powerful in the modern era, is content and distribution leverage. This is what happens when your ideas, your voice, your story reach thousands or millions of people simultaneously. A book, a podcast, a YouTube channel, a viral post, one piece of content created once that continues to generate influence, income, and opportunity for years. This is leverage in its purest, most scalable form, and it's the type that's most available to you right now, regardless of where you're starting from. The law of leverage demands that you constantly ask yourself, how can I multiply this effort? Not just work harder on it, multiply it. Every task, every strategy, every dollar, run it through the leverage filter. Is this trading time for money? Or is this building a system that compounds? Now here's where leverage gets dangerous, because leverage amplifies everything, including mistakes, which is exactly why Law 11 must always be paired with its partner. Law number 12, the law of asymmetric risk. The biggest risk is not taking any risk. In a world that's changing quickly, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking risks. Mark Zuckerberg. Asymmetric risk is the philosophy that the most successful investors, entrepreneurs, and power players in America live by. And it's one of the most elegant ideas in the entire wealth-building playbook. Here's the core concept. Seek situations where the potential upside dramatically outweighs the potential downside. Bet big when the worst case is survivable and the best case is life-changing. Protect yourself fiercely when the downside is catastrophic and the upside is marginal. Most people get this completely backwards. They take enormous risks on things with limited upside. They blow their savings on a flashy business with no validation. They go all in on a single speculative investment. They burn bridges for a shortcut. And they avoid calculated risks with enormous upside. They never start the business because they might fail. They never make the investment because they might lose. They never have the conversation because they might get rejected. Asymmetric thinking flips this. It asks, what is the actual worst case if this doesn't work? And more importantly, what is the actual best case if it does? If the worst case is temporary and recoverable, and the best case is transformational, that's an asymmetric bet worth taking. Starting a side business while keeping your job, worst case you learn and lose some weekends. Best case you replace your income and buy your freedom. Asymmetric, making a low-cost investment in a high-potential asset early. Worst case you lose a small amount. Best case you multiply it significantly over time. Asymmetric, the wealthy are not reckless risk takers. They are calculated risk takers. They never bet the farm on a single outcome. They never put themselves in a position where one bad move ends the game. But within those guardrails, they take bold, decisive action when the math of upside versus downside tips heavily in their favor. This is why wealthy people seem fearless. It's not that they don't feel fear. It's that they've run the asymmetric calculation and realized the risk of not acting is greater than the risk of acting. Staying in a dead-end job feels safe. But the asymmetric reality is that the downside of staying over 20 years is far greater than the downside of trying something bold and failing. Risk is not the enemy. Unexamined risk is the enemy. Together, Laws 11 and 12 form the offensive playbook of wealth. Leverage multiplies your effort. Asymmetric risk ensures that when you make bold moves, the math is on your side. Deploy both together, and you stop playing defense with your financial life and start playing offense with intention. You got the philosophy, you got the mechanics, you've got the leverage. But here's what happens to almost every person who starts accumulating real power and real money. They hit a wall they didn't see coming. Not a financial wall, not a strategy wall, a people wall. Because when you start rising, not everyone rises with you. And some people, including ones you trusted, will actively try to pull you back down. Chapter 7 is about how to navigate that reality without losing your power, your peace, or your principles. Drop a comment. Which type of leverage are you going to start building first? Financial, human, technology, or content? Tell us below. And if this chapter shifted something for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Chapter 7, Law 13 and 14, the law of strategic patience and the law of controlled opposition. The two most powerful warriors are patience and time. Leo Tolstoy. Nobody warns you about this part. They tell you to work hard. They tell you to invest. They tell you to build your circle, master your mindset, control your narrative. And you do all of it. You start rising. You start winning. You start becoming undeniable. And then, out of nowhere, the resistance starts. Not from strangers. Not from competitors you can see coming. From people close to you. The colleague who suddenly starts undermining your ideas in meetings. The friend who used to cheer you on who now goes quiet every time you share a win. The partner who supported your dream until it started becoming real and then got uncomfortable. The family member who calls your ambition arrogance and your boundary selfishness. Nobody warned you that success has social consequences. That rising creates friction. That the same people who said, go for it, when you were struggling sometimes become the loudest voices of doubt when you start actually going for it. And if you're not prepared for this, it can stop you cold. Not because they're powerful enough to stop you, but because their resistance triggers something in you. Guilt, doubt, the old story, the old version of yourself that hasn't quite let go yet. This is why Law 13 and 14 might be the most emotionally important laws in this entire book. This is law number 13. The law of strategic patience. Strategic patience is not passive waiting. Let's be crystal clear about that, because in America's hustle culture, patience gets confused with laziness. People think patience means sitting still. It doesn't. Strategic patience means moving with precision instead of desperation. It means understanding that timing is a weapon, and that the person who strikes at the right moment almost always defeats the person who strikes first out of impulse. Patience is not the ability to wait. It's the ability to keep a good attitude while waiting. Joyce Meyer. Here's where most rising people get destroyed. They react too fast. Someone disrespects them, and they blow up the relationship immediately instead of waiting to see the full picture. An opportunity looks good, and they jump before doing the due diligence. A competitor makes a move, and they panic respond instead of letting the situation develop. An investor says no, and they give up on the deal instead of waiting 30 days and coming back stronger. Reaction speed feels powerful, but strategic patience is what actually wins. Think about the most powerful players in any industry, in business, in politics, in finance. They're almost never the ones who react fastest. They're the ones who wait longest while everyone else is scrambling. They gather information. They let their opponents overcommit. They let the situation clarify itself. And then, when the moment is exactly right, they move with everything they have. This is how Warren Buffett built Berkshire Hathaway. Not by chasing every hot opportunity, by waiting, sometimes for years, for the right asset at the right price. Then moving decisively. Strategic patience, as a financial philosophy, created one of the greatest wealth stories in American history. But strategic patience goes beyond investing. It's a power philosophy. It means not announcing your moves before you've made them. It means not responding to provocations that don't deserve your energy. It means not fighting every battle, because the person who fights every battle exhausts themselves long before the war is won. Pick your battles. Time your moves. Let urgency work for you, not against you. The person who can sit in discomfort the longest without flinching, without reacting, without tipping their hand, that person controls the room. Every time. Now here's the darker, more necessary law. Because strategic patience is how you move. But there's something else you need to understand about the people who oppose your rise. Because not all opposition is created equal. And treating every form of resistance the same way will cost you. Law number 14, the law of controlled opposition. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Sun Tzu. Let's define something first, because the word enemy is loaded and most people resist using it. So let's use a cleaner term. Friction sources. People whose interests, insecurities, or agendas create resistance to your growth. Some of them know they're doing it. Many of them don't. And the first thing you need to understand about friction sources is this. Not all of them should be removed from your life. Some of them should be managed. Strategically, deliberately. Because eliminating every source of opposition isn't always possible. And sometimes the opposition itself is valuable information. Here's what most people do when they sense opposition. They either avoid it entirely, pretending it doesn't exist until it blindsides them, or they confront it aggressively, burning the bridge, creating an enemy, and spending energy on a conflict that didn't need to escalate. Controlled opposition means a third path. You acknowledge the resistance, you understand its source, and you manage it with precision, neither ignoring it nor being consumed by it. In practical terms, this means know who in your environment is rooting for you and who is rooting against you. Not with paranoia, with clarity, because knowing where the friction is coming from allows you to navigate around it, neutralize it, or use it strategically. There's an old political concept, and it's been used by the most powerful leaders throughout history, of keeping your opposition visible. If you push every friction source away, they operate in the dark, outside your awareness, where they're most dangerous. But when you keep them close, when you maintain the relationship on your terms, you know exactly what they're doing, thinking, and planning. This is not about being fake. It's about being strategic. You don't have to confide in someone to maintain a cordial relationship with them. You don't have to trust someone to keep them in your peripheral vision. Powerful people smile, shake hands, and stay aware, all at the same time. There's another dimension to controlled opposition that is especially relevant in the digital age: public criticism. If you build anything visible, a brand, a business, a platform, a reputation, you will attract critics. Some of their criticism will be legitimate and useful. Most of it will be noise driven by their own frustration, envy, or boredom. The law here is simple. Never fight publicly with small opposition. Responding to every critic gives them the audience they're seeking and the energy they don't deserve. Controlled opposition means you filter what deserves a response and what deserves silence. The biggest mistake rising people make on social media, in business, and public life, is letting small opposition pull them into big, visible conflicts that damage their brand and exhaust their focus. Stay above it. Stay moving. Let your results be your loudest response. And for the opposition that is genuinely dangerous, the person actively sabotaging your work, the partner betraying your trust, the colleague undermining your position, handle it privately, swiftly, and completely. No drama, no announcement, just a clean, decisive move that removes the threat and protects your momentum. Strategic patience and controlled opposition. Laws 13 and 14 are your armor. They protect everything you've built from the inevitable friction that comes with rising. Because rising always creates friction. Always. The question is not how to avoid it. The question is how to navigate it without losing your power your focus, or your peace. You've protected yourself from external opposition. You've mastered the timing of your moves. You've built wealth philosophy, leverage, and circle. But here's the thing. All of this means nothing if you don't know how to present yourself at the highest level when the biggest opportunities arrive. Because opportunity doesn't wait for you to be ready. It shows up, often suddenly, often once, and the people who are prepared to perform in that moment are the ones who change their entire trajectory. Chapter 8 is about commanding any room, any negotiation, any stage, and turning every high-stakes moment into a defining win. This chapter was a real one. Drop a comment. Have you ever had someone close to you become a friction source when you started rising? How did you handle it? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. Chapter 8. Law 15 and 16. The law of commanding presence and the law of high-stakes performance. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Will Rogers. Picture this. Two people walk into the same room for the same job interview. Same qualifications. Same experience. Same resume sitting on the same desk. The first person walks in apologetically, slightly hunched, voice a little too quiet, eyes darting. They sit down before they're invited to. They answer every question with "I think," and "I feel like," and "I'm not sure," and before they've said anything wrong, the decision has already been made against them. The second person walks in like they belong there. Not arrogant, not loud, just present. They fill the room with calm authority. They make eye contact that says, "I see you, and I'm not afraid of you." They speak with measured certainty. They pause before answering, not because they're unsure, but because they're choosing their words. And before they've proven anything on paper, the room has already decided they're the one. Same credentials, completely different outcomes. The difference is presence. And presence is a skill, not a personality type. This is law number 15, the law of commanding presence. Let's kill a myth right now. Commanding presence is not something you're born with. It's not reserved for extroverts, for tall people, for naturally charismatic personalities. Some of the most commanding people in American business history were introverts. Some were soft-spoken. Some were physically unimposing. What they all had in common was this. They had done the inner work to show up with complete conviction in who they were and what they represented. And that conviction, that unshakable sense of self, is what the room feels before a single word is spoken. Commanding presence operates on multiple levels simultaneously. And understanding each level is what allows you to engineer it deliberately, consistently, in any environment. The first level is physical presence. How you carry your body communicates your relationship with power before you open your mouth. Posture is not vanity, is signal. Research from social psychologist Amy Cuddy showed that expansive, open body posture doesn't just change how others perceive you, it changes your own hormonal state. It literally shifts your internal chemistry toward confidence. Stand tall. Take up appropriate space. Move deliberately, not rushed, not frozen. Let your physicality say, "I am comfortable here," even when internally you're working through nerves. The second level is vocal presence. Your voice is one of your most powerful tools, and most people never consciously develop it. The pace at which you speak, the depth of your tone, the pauses you allow, all of it shapes how people receive your words. Slow down, especially when making important points. The instinct under pressure is to speak faster, to get through it, to fill the silence. Resist that instinct fiercely. The person who speaks slowly, clearly, and with intention is always perceived as more powerful than the person who rushes. Speech is power. Speech is to persuade, to convert, to compel. Ralph Waldo Emerson. The third level is energetic presence, and this is the one that's hardest to fake, which is why the inner work of previous chapters matters so much here. People feel your energy before they process your words. They sense whether you're operating from fear or from confidence, from scarcity or from abundance. from desperation, or from choice. The most commanding people in any room are almost always the ones who feel like they don't need anything from it. And that detachment, that freedom from neediness, is magnetic in ways that can't be fully explained but are absolutely felt. Build your commanding presence daily, not just when the big moments arrive, because by then it's too late to build it from scratch. Practice it in small rooms, in coffee shops, in casual conversations, in every interaction where you could choose to shrink or choose to own the moment. The habit of presence compounds just like money does. Now here's the thing about commanding presence. It gets you into the room. It creates the opportunity. But what you do inside the high-stakes moment is what determines whether you win it. Enter law number 16, the law of high-stakes performance. Pressure is a privilege. It only comes to those who earn it. Billie Jean King. High-stakes moments are the defining intersections of every powerful person's story. The pitch that funds the company. The negotiation that changes the terms. The presentation that wins the client. The conversation that saves or ends the partnership. The interview that opens the door to an entirely different life. And here's the brutal reality. Most people underperform in their highest stakes moments. Not because they lack ability, because they lack a performance system. They walk into the most important moments of their lives relying on talent and hoping for the best. And talent without system is inconsistent. Sometimes it shows up beautifully. Sometimes it collapses under pressure. The people who consistently perform at their peak when everything is on the line, they're not more talented. They're more prepared. The first component of high-stake performance is pre-performance preparation. Elite athletes don't walk onto the field and wing it. They have pre-game rituals, physical, mental, emotional, that prime their system for peak output. You need the same. Before any high-stakes moment, have a ritual that centers you, that quiets the noise, that connects you to your why. Whether it's 5 minutes of deep breathing, a power playlist, a specific warm-up routine, journaling your intentions, design your pre-performance ritual and execute it every single time. The second component is scenario mastery. The most confident performers in any field are confident because they have rehearsed every possible scenario until the responses become instinctive. Before a big negotiation, role-play every objection the other side might raise and rehearse your response until it flows naturally. Before a big presentation, practice it aloud, not just in your head, until your voice stops shaking and your words come out clean. Before a difficult conversation, map the emotional terrain in advance so you're not surprised by where it goes. Preparation doesn't eliminate nerves, but it transforms nerves from a liability into fuel. The person who has prepared thoroughly feels their nerves as excitement, as the system revving up for peak performance. The person who hasn't prepared feels their nerves as terror. Same physiological state, completely different experience because of preparation. The third component is perhaps the most powerful, present moment anchoring. The number one destroyer of high-stakes performance is not lack of skill. It's mental time travel. You're in the middle of your most important pitch, and your mind is 3 steps ahead. What if they say no? What if I mess this up? What if this is my only chance? Or it's 3 steps behind. I should have prepared more. I knew I wasn't ready. Why did I even try? Past and future thinking in a high-stakes present moment is performance poison. The antidote is brutal present moment focus. Train yourself to come back again and again to this sentence, this breath, this moment. The negotiation happening right now. The question being asked right now. The opportunity unfolding right now. Because the only place you can actually win is here, in the present. Not in your fears about the future or your regrets about the past. The greatest performers across every field, athletes, executives, artists, negotiators, describe their best performances the same way. They weren't thinking. They weren't analyzing. They were present, fully, completely, almost effortlessly in the moment. That state is not accidental. It is trained. Laws 15 and 16. Commanding presence and high-stakes performance are your performance blueprint. They ensure that when the biggest opportunities of your life show up, you don't just show up for them. You dominate them. You've built the inner game, the outer game, the financial game, the social game, the performance game. But here's what separates the people who win once from the people who win consistently. Over years, over decades, across every arena of their lives. It's legacy thinking. It's the ability to zoom out from the immediate win and ask, what am I actually building here? What will remain when I'm gone? What is the real end game? Chapter 9 is where we talk about building power and money that doesn't just last a lifetime, but outlasts you entirely. Comment below, what's your biggest high-stakes moment coming up? A pitch, a negotiation, an interview, a launch? Drop in the comments. Let the Mindset Audiobooks community know, and let's hold each other accountable. Chapter 9, Laws 17 to 28. The Power Clusters, Reinvention, Multiplication, Influence, and Endurance. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill. We're in the final stretch now. You've built the foundation. You've mastered the inner game, the money game, the people game, the performance game. And if you've been taking notes, mentally or physically, you already have more strategic clarity than 90% of people walking around America today. But here's what separates the people who learn these laws from the people who live them. Consistency, adaptability, endurance. Because the world doesn't stay still while you're building. Markets shift, industries collapse and resurrect. Relationships evolve. The version of you that starts this journey is not the version that finishes it. And the ability to evolve without losing your core is itself one of the most powerful skills you will ever develop. The next 12 laws come fast. They come in clusters. And together, they complete the blueprint. Power Cluster 1, the Laws of Reinvention, Laws 17, 18, and 19. Law 17, the Law of Identity Fluidity. It is not the strongest species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one most adaptable to change. Charles Darwin. The most dangerous thing you can do in a rapidly changing world is become rigidly attached to a single version of yourself. The lawyer who refuses to learn technology. The executive who can't adapt to new leadership styles. The entrepreneur who keeps selling a product the market has moved past. Identity fluidity means you hold your values constant while keeping your strategies completely flexible. You know who you are at the core, your principles, your integrity, your standards, and within that unshakable core, you remain infinitely adaptable in how you show up, what skills you build, and what opportunities you pursue. The most powerful people don't have one identity. They have one character expressed through many evolutions. Law 18, the Law of Strategic Adaptation. Markets change. People change. Power structures shift. The strategy that worked brilliantly 3 years ago may be the exact thing killing your momentum today. Strategic adaptation means you're always reading the environment, not just executing a plan, but constantly assessing whether the plan still fits the reality. The greatest investors pivot. The greatest leaders evolve. The greatest brands reinvent. Not because they were wrong the first time, but because they're smart enough to know that being right once is not the same as staying right forever. Law 19, the Law of Competitive Evolution. Your competition is not standing still while you grind. They're learning, improving, and closing the gap, or widening it. Competitive evolution means you are always in a state of intentional growth. Not frantic, scattered learning, but deliberate, strategic skill building that keeps you ahead of what the market will demand next. Read one level ahead of where you are. Build skills before you need them. The person who is always 6 months ahead of the curve never scrambles when a curve shifts. Power Cluster 2, the Money Multipliers, Laws 20, 21, and 22. Law 20, the Law of Multiple Income Streams. Never depend on a single income. Make investments to create a second source. Warren Buffett. One income stream is a financial vulnerability. 2 is stability. 3 is the beginning of freedom. 5 is power. The wealthiest Americans, regardless of their starting point, almost universally share one characteristic. They built multiple streams of income over time. Not overnight, not all at once, but intentionally one stream added to another until their financial ecosystem became resilient enough that no single disruption could destroy it. Start your second stream today. Not when you're ready, not when it's perfect. Today. Law 21, the law of tax intelligence. This law doesn't get talked about in motivational content. And that's exactly why most people stay financially limited despite earning well. Tax intelligence is not tax evasion. It is the legal, strategic understanding of how the tax code actually works, and using it the way wealthy people have always used it. The rich don't just earn more. They keep more because they understand deductions, entity structures, investment vehicles, and timing strategies that legally minimize what they owe. A financial advisor and a tax strategist are not luxuries. They're investments that pay for themselves many times over. Get them as early as possible. Law 22, the law of compound consistency. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Einstein allegedly said it, and whether he did or not, the math proves it daily. But compounding doesn't only apply to money. It applies to skills, reputation, relationships, and habits. Every consistent action you take, every day you show up, every investment you make, every relationship you nurture is compounding silently in the background. The results feel invisible for a long time. Then suddenly they feel inevitable. Trust the compound. Stay consistent when it feels pointless. That's precisely when it's working hardest. Power Cluster 3, the influence engine, laws 23, 24, and 25. Law 23, the law of reciprocal power. The currency of real networking is not greed, but generosity. Keith Ferrazzi. Influence is not demanded. It is earned through consistent, genuine value creation. The law of reciprocal power states that every time you give without immediate expectation of return, your social capital grows. People remember who helped them. People champion who invested in them. People open doors for those who open doors first. Led with generosity in every professional relationship, and watch what returns to you multiplied. Law 24, the law of social proof. People follow people who are already being followed. This is not shallow. It is deeply human psychology. We look to others to determine what is credible, what is valuable, what is worth our attention. Build your social proof deliberately. Testimonials, case studies, visible associations, public recognition. These are not vanity metrics. They are trust accelerators that make every sale easier, every pitch stronger, and every opportunity more accessible. Law 25, the law of anchored authority. Become the undeniable expert in your space. Not a generalist who knows a little about everything, but a recognized authority in a specific, valuable domain. Write about it. Speak about it. Teach it. Publish it. The person who is known as the go-to resource in their field commands premium prices, attracts premium opportunities, and builds a reputation that works as a 24-hour marketing engine. Authority is the ultimate leverage in the knowledge economy. Power Cluster 4, the Endurance Code, laws 26, 27, and 28. Law 26, the law of strategic rest. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. And Lamont. America's hustle culture has sold exhaustion as a badge of honor and has cost people their health, their relationships, their creativity, and ultimately their results. Strategic rest is not weakness. It is performance optimization. The highest performing executives, athletes, and creatives in the world treat rest as a non-negotiable part of their success system. Sleep is a wealth tool. Recovery is a competitive advantage. The person who is well rested outthinks, outperforms, and outlasts the person who is chronically exhausted every single time. Law 27, the law of resilient recovery. You will fail. Let's be completely direct about that, because anyone who tells you the path to power and money is a clean, uninterrupted upward line is lying to you. You will lose deals. You will make bad investments. You will misjudge people. You will have seasons where everything seems to be falling apart simultaneously. The law of resilient recovery is not about avoiding failure. It's about how fast and how completely you return from it. Failure is data. Setbacks are curriculum. The people who ultimately win are not the ones who never fall. They are the ones who refuse to stay down. Law 28, the law of long game thinking. In a culture obsessed with instant results, virality, quick flips, overnight success stories, long game thinking is a radical act. And it is the thinking pattern of every genuinely wealthy, genuinely powerful person who has ever built something that lasted. Think in decades. Make decisions your future self will thank you for. Plant trees whose shade you may not sit under for years. Because the people playing the short game will always be scrambling, while the people playing the long game are quietly, inevitably winning. 12 laws. For clusters. Each one a layer of the complete power and money architecture. You now hold 28 laws in your hands. The inner game is built. The money is moving. The influence is compounding. The endurance is locked in. There is only one chapter left, and it is the most important one, because chapter 10 is where we talk about what all of this is ultimately for. The final 5 laws. The legacy laws. The ones that transform a successful life into a significant one. And the complete recap of all 33 laws that will leave you with a blueprint you can return to again and again. This is the finale, and it's going to be worth every second. One chapter left. Are you ready for the finale? Drop a comment. Which cluster hit you hardest today? Reinvention, money, influence, or endurance? Let us know. Subscribe to Mindset Audiobooks if you haven't already, and get ready. Chapter 10 is where it all comes together. Chapter 10, Laws 29 to 33. The legacy laws, building power that outlasts you. The greatest use of a life is to spend it on something that will outlast it. William James. We've arrived. 10 chapters, 28 laws, hundreds of principles, strategies, mindset shifts, and hard truths that most people will never sit still long enough to absorb. But you did. And that alone tells me something about you. Something that most people will never understand about themselves. You are not here for comfort. You are not here for entertainment. You are here because somewhere deep inside you, underneath the noise, the doubt, the years of playing smaller than you should, there's a version of you that knows you were built for more. These final 5 laws are not about tactics. They're not about strategies or systems or frameworks. They're about something bigger than all of that. They're about why. Because here's the truth that every genuinely powerful, genuinely wealthy person eventually arrives at. Sometimes early, sometimes after decades of chasing the wrong things. Money without meaning is just numbers. Power without purpose is just control. Success without significance is just a very comfortable emptiness. The legacy laws are the laws that transform everything you've built into something that matters. Something that echoes beyond your lifetime. Something that makes the journey worth every sacrifice, every setback, every dark night when you wondered if any of it was worth it. It is. And here's why. Classical building, Law 29, the law of generational wealth transfer. Wealth is not about having a lot of money. It's about having a lot of options and passing those options forward. Chris Rock. Most people think about wealth in terms of their own lifetime. What they can earn, spend, enjoy, and experience before they're gone. And that's not wrong, but it is incomplete. Generational wealth transfer is the law that the top 1% of American families have understood for centuries, and that the rest of America is only beginning to wake up to. It's the understanding that the wealth you build is not just for you. It is a foundation, a launching pad, A head start for every generation that comes after you. Think about the compounding effect of generational wealth. If you build an asset base, real estate, investments, a business, intellectual property, and you transfer that base strategically to your children, you give them something priceless. Not just money, options. The option to take risks you couldn't take because you didn't have a safety net. The option to pursue purpose over paycheck because the basics are already covered. The option to build further on what you started instead of starting from zero like you had to. This law demands that you think about estate planning, life insurance, trust structures, and financial education for your children, not as morbid or premature topics, but as acts of love and legacy. The conversation about money that you never had growing up, have it with your kids. The financial literacy that nobody taught you, teach it to the next generation. Break the cycle. Build the foundation. Leave the door open instead of closed. Classical building law 30, the law of purposeful power. Power without love is reckless and abusive. Love without power is sentimental and anemic. Martin Luther King Jr. Here is a law that will separate you from every person who read a power book and became someone their family no longer recognizes. Power pursued purely for its own sake, for dominance, for ego, for the feeling of being above others, is a trap, is a gilded cage. And history is littered with brilliant, capable people who climbed to the top of the mountain and found nothing there but wind and isolation. Purposeful power means your pursuit of influence, wealth, and success is anchored to something beyond yourself. A mission, a community, a cause, a family, a generation of people you've never met who will benefit from what you build today. When your power has a purpose, it becomes sustainable. It becomes energizing instead of exhausting. It attracts the right people and the right opportunities because people can feel the difference between someone building for ego and someone building for impact. And impact, genuine, measurable human impact, is the greatest legacy any person can leave behind. Ask yourself right now, what is your power for? What problem does your wealth solve beyond your own comfort? What does your success make possible for others? Answer that question clearly. Write it down. Let it guide every major decision you make from this point forward. Because the person who knows their why is unstoppable in ways that the person chasing money alone will never understand. Law 31, the law of legendary reputation. Be so good they can't ignore you. Steve Martin, your reputation will outlive your body. Full stop. Long after you are gone, the stories people tell about how you treated them, what you built, what you stood for, whether your word meant something, those stories will echo. They will open doors for your children. They will define your legacy in rooms you'll never enter. They will determine whether your name carries weight or carries warning. Build your reputation like the long-term asset it is. Be someone whose handshake means something in a world full of broken promises. Be someone who shows up when it's inconvenient, follows through when it's difficult, and tells the truth when lying would be easier. These are not soft virtues. They are hard competitive advantages in a world where integrity has become genuinely rare. And understand this, a legendary reputation is not built in a single grand gesture. It is built in 10,000 small moments where you chose character over convenience, where you chose long-term trust over short-term gain, where you chose to be remarkable in the quiet moments that nobody is watching, because those are the moments that define who you actually are. Law 32, the law of inevitable success. Success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. Robert Collier. This law is perhaps the most quietly powerful of all 33. Inevitable success is not arrogance, is not delusion. It is a mathematical certainty that emerges when you combine the right philosophy, the right actions, and the right consistency over enough time. Here's the formula, and it is devastatingly simple. If you do the right things consistently, without quitting, for long enough, success becomes inevitable. Not possible, not likely, Inevitable. The only variable is time. Most people quit in the gap between starting and arriving. They do the right things for 60 days and see no results and conclude it isn't working. But the compounding was happening silently the entire time. The seeds were growing underground where they couldn't see them. And the moment they quit, they walked away from harvest that was weeks away. Don't quit in the gap. Trust the math. Trust the compounding. Trust the process you've now been given through these 33 laws. Show up every day, not perfectly, but consistently. And let time do what time always does for the people patient and disciplined enough to let it work. Your success is not a question of if. With everything you now know, it is only a question of when. Law 33, the law of the complete self. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Ralph Waldo Emerson. And here we are, the final law, not the most tactical, not the most financially sophisticated, but in many ways, the most important of all. The law of the complete self states that no amount of external power or wealth is worth the cost of losing who you are. That the version of you who arrives at the top must still be recognizable to the version of you who started at the bottom. That success which requires you to abandon your values, betray your relationships, or silence the authentic voice inside you is not success. It is a very expensive form of self-destruction. The complete self is not perfect. It is not finished. It is not without flaws, doubts, or ongoing struggles. The complete self is the person who pursues power and money without apology and without compromise of what makes them fundamentally human, who is ambitious and kind, wealthy and generous, powerful and humble, strategic and authentic. You do not have to choose between success and soul. The greatest people in history proved that you can have both. In fact, the ones who had both are the only ones we still remember. Be complete. Be whole, build everything, and lose nothing that matters. The complete 33 law rapid fire recap. This is your blueprint. All 33 laws. One sentence each. Remember them. Live them. Law 1, the law of perceived value. You are paid what people believe you're worth. So engineer that belief deliberately. Law 2, the law of controlled scarcity. Make yourself rare, and the world will treat you like a treasure. Law 3, the law of narrative control. If you don't tell your story, someone else will, and they won't be kind. Law 4, the law of strategic silence. The person who speaks last and least often controls the room. Law 5, the law of mental dominance. Your greatest opponent lives between your ears. Defeat it first. Law 6, the law of emotional detachment. Never let a temporary emotion make a permanent decision. Law 7, the law of circle architecture. Your environment is either your greatest asset or your most invisible enemy. Law 8, the law of strategic alliance. Build genuine relationships before you need them, and they will open doors you didn't know existed. Law 9, the law of wealth philosophy. Stop thinking about what you earn, start thinking about what you own. Law 10, the law of money velocity. Every dollar you have should have a job. Put them all to work. Law 11, the law of leverage. Stop trading time for money and start building systems that multiply your effort. Law 12, the law of asymmetric risk. Take bold action when the upside is transformational and the downside is survivable. Law 13, the law of strategic patience. Move with precision, not desperation. Timing is a weapon. Law 14, the law of controlled opposition. Know where your resistance is coming from and manage it strategically. Law 15, the law of commanding presence. Walk into every room like you belong there because you do. Law 16, the law of high-stakes performance. Prepare so thoroughly that pressure becomes fuel instead of fear. Law 17, the law of identity fluidity. Keep your values constant and your strategies infinitely flexible. Law 18, the law of strategic adaptation. The plan that got you here may not be the plan that gets you there. Law 19, the law of competitive evolution. Always be building the skill the market will need next. Law 20, the law of multiple income streams. One income is a vulnerability. Build until no single loss can stop you. Law 21, the law of tax intelligence. It's not what you earn, it's what you keep. Law 22, the law of compound consistency. Show up every day, especially when it feels like nothing is happening. Law 23, the law of reciprocal power. Lead with generosity and watch what returns to you multiplied. Law 24, the law of social proof. Build visible credibility because people follow what others are already following. Law 25, the law of anchored authority. Become the undeniable expert in your space, and premium opportunities will find you. Law 26, the law of strategic rest. Rest is not a reward for hard work. It is a requirement for sustained excellence. Law 27, the law of resilient recovery. You will fall. The only question is how fast and how completely you get back up. Law 28, the law of long game thinking. The short game is crowded. The long game is where the real winners live. Law 29, the law of generational wealth transfer. Build foundations your children can build further on. Law 30, the law of purposeful power. Know what your power is for, and it will never run out. Law 31, the law of legendary reputation. Build your name like the lasting asset it is, because it will outlive everything else. Law 32, the law of inevitable success. Do the right things consistently for long enough, and success stops being possible and starts being certain. Law 33, the law of the complete self. Build everything. Lose nothing that matters. 33 laws, one life, infinite possibility. You came into this audiobook as one version of yourself. If these laws landed the way they were meant to, you are leaving as someone slightly different. Someone with sharper eyes, a clearer philosophy, a stronger internal compass pointing toward the life you are always capable of building. This is not the end of the journey. This is the beginning of the real one. The one where you take these laws off the screen and into your decisions, into your investments, into your relationships, into the mirror every morning when you ask yourself, am I becoming the person these laws describe? Some days the answer will be yes. Some days it won't. That's not failure. That's the process. Keep going. Keep building. Keep becoming. Because the world doesn't need more people who know how power and money work. The world needs more people who use that knowledge to build something worth leaving behind. You're one of them now. Go prove it. If this audiobook changed something in you, share it. Send it to someone who needs it. Drop a comment telling us which law hit you hardest. And if you're new to Mindset Audiobooks, welcome home. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with us. Because this was just the beginning of what we're building together. Until next time, keep your mindset sharp, your money moving, and your legacy growing.